The day is August 9th, 1969. Sharon Tate was with her friends at their home having a normal night, but little did they know that someone was planning their murder. Charles Manson specifically chose this residence because he was mad at the previous homeowners for not giving him a record deal. That night, a housekeeper was coming home late near the Tate residence and noticed a fallen wire and became worried. So she went inside and tried to pick up the phone, but the line was dead. So she went into the living room and noticed some dried blood on some of the furniture, and the front door was wide open. She went out onto the front porch and looked over the lawn and had discovered the first body. Growing up in my generation meant that almost everyone had heard of the Manson family cult. The first time that I heard of it was in the 7th grade in my history class when we started learning about the 60s. What most people are not aware of is how much manipulation was involved within the cult. People hear the name Charles Manson and believe that he committed all these crimes on his own, when really he was the puppet master and his followers were the puppets. Since that day in 7th grade, I have become fascinated by the world of crime and murder. To me, this stuff is interesting, and some it's concerning, but I find it fascinating. I began doing all my projects over serial killers whenever given the opportunity. In my free time, I enjoy watching documentaries and shows about the crimes people have committed and why they do those crimes. To help you better understand the Manson cult, I will explain the murders, manipulation, and the charges everyone had to face. But before I begin talking about the actual murders, I would like to look at how Manson convinced his followers to perform his every command. Manson desired power over others. He knew he was good looking and he used that to his ability as much as he could. He recruited 6 family members to follow his cult leading. Many people ask how he managed to manipulate these well-educated people to dedicate everything for him. Psychologists say it is the concept of optimism bias. This notion explains why people are wired to see the brighter side of things, and in this case, they were promised a better life, and they were hopeful to find it with Manson. According to C.N. Griffith's article, Madness and Manipulation, Manson was desperate to have his followers believe America was on the brink of a racial war, in which he called helter-skelter. He told them that they needed to flee to the desert, and there they would find a pit they could hide in and reemerge to the new world. Manson was quick to learn about his powers of persuasion. While in prison around age 32, Manson took a course in which he improved his abilities. Dale Carnegie, who instructed the course, was unknowingly giving Manson all the information he needed. Manson paid most attention to one chapter of Carnegie's book, which happened to be How to Get Cooperation. Carnegie would often say, "Let the other fellow feel the idea is his," which Manson later used with his followers. Now that we have discussed the manipulation behind the murders, I will share an overview of the actual murders Manson's followers enacted. Due to Manson's power of manipulation, he never had to murder anyone himself. His followers saw him as a messiah, and all their rational and critical thinking were gone when they started following him. Manson had convinced his followers to kill actress Sharon Tate and everyone inside. So before Manson had others do his crimes for him, he was the one to plan out everything. He had ordered his followers to enter the Tate residence and to destroy everyone in it as gruesome as you can. All Manson had to do was make sure his plan was executed by his followers. Manson had convinced his followers to enact another murder right after the Tate murders. However, this time Manson joined in with his followers because he thought there was not enough fear in the victims at the Tate house. Manson claimed he went into the La Bianca residence and soon left so one of his followers could finish the job for him. He instructed the rest of his family to follow this member's orders to kill everyone in the residence. Now that I've talked about the murders and manipulation, I would like to share what each person in the cult was charged with, including Manson himself. Everyone, including Manson, was found guilty for the Tate murders. The jury's verdict meant that they had accepted the evidence of Linda Casabian, the main prosecution witness. She was a former member of Manson's family and gave the strongest evidence about Manson's role in planning the murders. It was not stated that Manson took part in the actual murder, but under California law, planning the murder is equally as punishable as performing the murder. In January of 1972, Manson was found guilty and sentenced to the death penalty. That same year, the death penalty was abolished in the state of California, which dropped his sentence to life in prison. Manson's followers were all charged for the Tate and LaBianca murders. This included Watson, Atkins, and Kruwinkle, whose trial began with 7 counts of murder and 1 conspiracy. Casabian, the main prosecution witness, exchanged their charges for immunity by testifying against Manson. In review, because you know the history of the Manson family cult, you can better understand how Charles used manipulation to get people to perform his murders for him. The actress Sharon Tate, that Manson convinced his followers to kill, was 8.5 months pregnant. All she wanted was for her baby to be safe and to live on. Charles' followers were so brainwashed by his teachings that they showed no mercy for her or her baby. Manson and his followers got what they rightfully deserved, and he later passed away in prison in 2017.